information to the Israelis, to Western intelligence services, in order to be able to target the vulnerable spots in Iran. So I think that the Iranians are fully in their right to throw IAEA out, and I think that this will force an overhaul, because this using IAEA in this way is also attack not just on Iran, but it's an attack on the rule of international law. These agencies in fact serve as they serve a policing function. So they say, okay, you have to abide by these rules, so we're going to observe your compliance. Well, if the observation and policing becomes weaponized against you, then obviously you can't continue to comply, because it's directly to your detriment and to the benefit of your enemies. So I think that while I think that the Russians and the Chinese perfectly understand this, and I think that neither them nor the Iranians intend to undermine the rule of international law, because without international law we have chaos. We have potentially war of everybody against everybody with no holds barred. It would be chaos. But I think that Iran will demand major concessions in order to come back into those types of arrangements. And the concessions will be, well, okay, Israel's going to have to sign a non-proliferation treaty. IAEA inspectors are going to have to go there and see what's there. How many warheads they have, what's at the Dimona, so if we subject ourselves to an inspection regime, then Israel has to subject themselves to the same exact inspection regime as well. And then, I think by now everybody understands that this whole mess with the Iran nuclear program it's almost contrived. It's not real. They are pushing this line because they want the regime change. But since we in the West support the rule of law and democracy and freedom and human rights, then we can't overtly say, well, yeah, we want to install the Shah in Tehran, and we want to overthrow the current government of Iran, which is, democratically elected. You like it or not, but that's a fact. So they have to harp on this nuclear program. But, the whole world by now sees, okay, here's Libya, who gave up their nuclear program, and it got attacked. Muammar Gaddafi got overthrown. He got killed, and the country got completely destroyed. It went from being the most advanced country in Africa to being a failed state in just a few years. And then the contrast is North Korea, which didn't give up their nuclear program and which does have nuclear weapons. Well, nobody's daring to touch North Korea, right? And so I think it's you have to take that into account. For Iran, they don't have a nuclear weapon. They have a fatwa against having a nuclear weapon, but they have made themselves a nuclear threshold state in order to be able to build a nuclear weapon in a short time, not because they're going to bomb anybody, because they can't, but to have a deterrent, so that if their enemy decides to nuke them, they can nuke them back, so that their enemy says, like, okay, that option's off the table, we can't do that. It's a deterrent. That's the sole purpose that it serves, is as a deterrent. And so I think that Iran, particularly in view of the precedents of Libya and North Korea, Iran is fully entitled to have that deterrent. And I think it's not right to demand them to give it up while demanding nothing of their enemy, So you have two adversaries, and you're putting all the pressure on one side to disarm, to give up their nuclear program, to give up their missile program, and at the same time you're asking absolutely nothing of the other side. Well, that doesn't work. That's not law. This is partisanship. This is taking sides. And again, as always, the fault lines is the empire versus the rest of the world. So in effect, you're taking the side of the empire and or i.e. the rules-based global order. And so I think that Iranians are fully in their right to say, no, we will no longer comply with this as is today. And I think that the Russians and the Chinese perfectly understand the situation. So, they're going to be generally supportive of Iran. And then they're going to apply pressure. Okay, so if you want Iran to comply with IAEA inspections, well, then we have to force Israel to do the same.
Yeah. Alex, do you feel that what has happened to Iran would somehow strengthen the relationship, the security and military relationship between Iran and Russia? How is that going to work for the two countries, and which are somehow negotiating with the United States? But those people who were some advocating to a better relationship with the United States are getting weaker as time goes by in those countries.
I think it will strengthen the relationship between Iran and Russia. I think that it was clear that Iran needs Russia and Russia needs Iran, and now it became even clearer, because I know that in Iran there's there's a part of the political class that is still very distrustful of the Russians. And then, maybe there's a little bit of that mutual feeling on the other side as well. But, it's very obvious why Russia needs Iran. And now it's much more clear why Iran also needs Russia. Because, we're talking about a complete overhaul of the security architecture on the whole Eurasian continent. And Iran is practically the centerpiece of the security architecture of the West Asia or the Middle East. And we see how important that is now especially that, what was it, in March, in less than 3 months ago, Azerbaijan got a new British military attaché, who took office in under British embassy in Baku. And then all of a sudden, hey, look, there you have Azerbaijan beginning to antagonize Russia, and they begin to antagonize Iran all at the same time. So you see the British geopolitics is continuing in operation. And if you don't set up and cement a new security architecture, that's only a guarantee that it's going to be war, more and more and more war. They're always going to find a pretext, so you can find some reason to go and antagonize the Russians and start to destabilize, derail the friendly relations between Russia and the Azerbaijan, which they tried to cultivate in spite of all the difficulties. Well, if you blow that relationship up, then immediately you're poisoning the relations between Russia and Turkey, because Turkey and Azerbaijan have a common interest there, and ideally they would like to connect territorial, on that how do you call that that land bridge between Azerbaijan and Turkey, not Zangezur corridor.
Mm.
So that could be the territorial connection between Turkey and Azerbaijan. So that's already like a potential crisis flashpoint, and then that's going to pull Turkey back into the globalist camp, where they already are because of Syria. Because the Turks are completely in bed with the British intelligence in Syria. So it's a big, complicated mess. And then obviously the globalist forces, and I don't think it's CIA as much as it is MI6 and Mossad, who are, you know, in have very close cooperation with the, you know, Azerbaijanis, with their deep state. And
Yeah, this is the corridor that you were talking about.
yes, yes. And so that's, you know, it's the Azerbaijan is already on bad terms with Armenia, and they've been in and out of wars for the last 30 years. And we still don't have a, well, you know, now maybe we do have a partly a solution to that conflict, because the Armenians merely yielded to Azerbaijan's territorial ambitions, but there's still this Zangezur corridor that Baku would very much like to control. And so that might come up sometimes in the near future, particularly if you have, because, okay, this has been the one of the major strategies of the MI6 to try to dominate West Asia has been working with the Turks, with the Turkish deep state, and of course with the Azerbaijanis, because they're also Turkic people, to you know, what the British geopolitics has done for the past 200 years. They always promise concessions to regional powers. So if they want Turks to help them take over Syria, they'll take them like, oh, we'll help you against the Kurds, or we'll help you establish your kind of dominant position in among the Turkic people. And there's this project of Great Turania, you know, which goes from Turkey all the way almost to China, to Xinjiang province. And it's all these Turkic people, all the stans, you know, the Turkmenistans, the Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, and then, you know, but for the Zangezur corridor connection to Turkey. So this could be the whole ginormous Great Turania, which, you know, maybe people like Aliyev or Erdogan would like to have in their legacy, that they united the Turkic people in the world and created this great political economic entity. But then that completely derails the BRICS architecture. And not to mention that northern part of Iran is southern Azerbaijan, again populated by majority Turkic people. So you can always use separatist movements to destabilize Iran in this way. And obviously they're moving in that direction. So I think that if you're Russia and China, this is a sign that you really need to support Iran, because Iran is the antithesis of these Western schemes to destabilize the region. And, you know, I think that Russia has been largely successful in this sense, because the British, okay, so the current head of MI6, Sir Richard Moore, used to be the British ambassador to Turkey. And so this Great Turania was his assignment. And he, you know, he has become